that specific use case, the sales off stuff, I did the research and I was like, what are we doing? Like, we're going to go buy a tool and this tool already does it and we're paying for it and we have access. We don't have to pay anymore.
Okay, that was so good.
The whole series is about exploring how people's buying decision takes place from like the moment something becomes necessary to a final decision.
Especially if you're like, well, we can do that too. It's like, why didn't we know that before? That would be helpful.
I was like, what I wouldn't have given to have this back then.
That's exactly the type of stuff I was hoping to hear out of these interviews. So cool.
This is Buyer Truths, a research project about how tech buyers make decisions and what it means for how you sell.
My name is Jen Allen-Knuth from DemandJen with a J, and I'm here with my partner, Drew Giovannoli from Buried Winds.
All right, we're live.
All right, Keith, thank you for joining Jen and I today on the Buyer Truths podcast. We are here to talk about real buying decisions, something you've purchased in the past year, told by you, the person who went through that buying experience. And we're really grateful to have you on. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Happy to be here, especially see my friend DemandJen.
Amazing. So to kick us off, help us set the context for your role, who you are, the type of company you are, because it matters a lot if you're super budget constrained, the size of the team you're buying for. So can you set those building blocks up for us?
Yes, absolutely. So I am an RVP at a company called Bullhorn. It's about a $500 million software company, focuses specifically on like CRM, ATS for recruiting and staffing firms. So very niche. The team that we were buying for was our mid-market field sales team. There was probably about 35 people, sales reps, account managers, and AEs that we were buying for.
Awesome. And what was the pain point you were trying to solve?
It wasn't so much that there was a pain. It was we identified a skill gap within our sellers, and big thing was the way that they were communicating both verbally and written. We felt like that was something that we could improve upon. And so actually, it goes back even further than that. So I've known Nate, who is the founder of Fluent, for prior to even Fluent being a thing. So it was actually a really natural progression of how that relationship started to where a product came about. And it filled the need. And I can tell more about that story, but it was really a skill gap that we were trying to close on the sales team.
How did you figure out that you had that skill gap? Like, what went into that process? Because I think sometimes we as sellers don't know when someone identifies a skill gap. Is that because someone comes to them and asks? Is it like you keep seeing a pattern? Does it show up in the results? So help us understand what that looks like.
I think so. The industry that we sell into has been pretty challenging the last couple of years. And I'm such a big believer on like, okay, well, let's focus on what we can control, which is like attitude, effort, and skill set. And so like, let's take a look at what all our sellers are doing really well. What are the things that they're not? And at that time, I was, much like many people, following like Nate on LinkedIn. And I was so like drawn in and enamored by like how he communicated anytime he was on a video or written. Like, you just find yourself, I wanted to read everything that guy did, right? And Jen, you know this, it's like, he just has such a great way. And I'm thinking, man, if I could get my reps to like be able to communicate like that, that would be amazing. And this was maybe 2 or 3 years ago. He had a course called a buyer enablement course where he went through a lot of his frameworks prior to Fluent being a thing. So I bought that personally for my team. There was 9 people that reported directly under me that we took. Again, so we took this course prior to the software even being available. And so to your point of like, how did we know? It's just like you follow someone so smart and you're like, guys, we got so much room to improve. So that's really how we identified it.
And I'm actually not familiar. What does Fluent do?
So at a high level, it allows the sellers to take all of their written communication, whether it's emails, it's all their call recordings, and it helps them build business cases, mid-funnel emails, narratives to really help them shape shape the narrative for the buying process and gets them to think outside of the box. And it's so well engineered for sales and sales teams. Like a lot of what they were doing before was like going to ChatGPT or Claude and trying to do that. And the results are okay, but like Fluent is like meant specifically and trained on all this sales data in Nate's brain. And sometimes it spits stuff up. I'm like, that is Nate. Like, that's awesome. So it's really, really good.
So it's interesting. So it's almost like your sales process or buying process started years ago because of the exposure to Nate's brain, essentially, through the course. So you had some people go through that. That gave you, it sounds like it gave you an image of like, this is what great looks like, which is what you were then using to compare against your team's current state. Is that fair?
Spot on.
Yeah. And so you've known Nate a long time, right? You've gone through his course. Some of the team had gone through the course. Do you remember the moment when you were like, I need to actually take that next step with Nate? Like I need to, and what was that next step? Was it a text to Nate? Was it an email? Like, was it responding to something he sent you? Like, how did it actually like come to be when you really started engaging in the sale?
I think it was a couple, maybe a year or so in after he had started, because we're now at that point where like, if you want to get anything through security, it's a whole long process. And I know him as a small startup, it then like, let him get some wins under his belt, and then we could try and test it out. So it was about a year ago, and I texted him. I was like, Nate, I think we're ready to go, give this a shot, and we want to try and roll it out to a small subset and see how it works. So we got a small group together, and we did like weekly calls, and like, this is what we're trying to do. And we also, because it can do so much, we focused on like one use case. We're like, we're just going to use it to start to build problem statements so people can build the muscle of how does it work, getting some trust in it. Because I'd say it's about building business cases, but there's so much you can do. Like you can trigger off different stages. It'll automatically create business cases for you. There's a lot. And as you know, rolling out technology can be very overwhelming for salespeople. So it's like, let's just, spoon feed them, and then we'll roll it out progressively over time. So yeah, we started with a pilot, and then it went from there.
And how did you decide even like who is part of the pilot? How many people are part of the pilot? Because I think a lot of teams take that approach where it's like, let's start small, learn, and think about a broader rollout. But from a buyer's perspective, what can you tell us about like what thought goes into that process even?
Yeah. I always look for people who are like naturally curious and are good at adopting technology. Some people are like, hey, you should also get people that are not good at adopting technology to see how they would interact with it as well. But I don't do that. So I always find the people that like are always testing new things or sharing things with the team of like, hey, did you know you could do this? I just learned this. So we had 4 people. We had 2 people from my team. Then we had 2 people from another mid-market team. Actually, we did have 5 people. And then we had 1 AE that all got involved in the pilot. And they were all pretty good producers, but they're also the ones that were most naturally curious. We know that they would try it out and actually give it a go.
It sounds like you had this relationship and you're willing to test it out. And the status quo was maybe people using their own LLM and the internal sales training. Did you have a set metric that was like, hey, if this performs in this way, or a certain way you were grading the performance of that pilot, said, if we unlock this, then we're ready to roll this out. We're ready to buy it in a big way?
Good question. We were definitely not that sophisticated in the form of like, I wanted to see was 1, were people going to adopt it? 2, were they going to say, hey, this really helped me and here's why? And then I could then see it in their communication, because I think anybody that starts a writing habit knows the more that you write, the better verbal communicator you become, because you get good at getting your thoughts out on paper. So I could see it when I was watching calls or their emails back and forth to them. I'm like, they've never written like this before, or they've never had a conversation like this before. So I'm like, we're on to something. And I was telling Nate, I sent him a message, and this is a brag on my team. Like, my team was like one of the highest performing teams last year and hit their number. And it's It's not all because of Fluent, but it was a big part of that because, again, it's not business cases. It's like it's helping them communicate, and communication as a salesperson is like the number one skill, I think, for teams to develop.
And did this come out of any existing budget, like slush fund, or did you have to go advocate for this?
We had some existing budget. We actually had, anytime we bring on a new tool, I'm a big fan of like, go see if there's something that we can remove. So we're not just adding on additional tech that the team is not using. And then you've got this big tech stack that no one uses. So we had a tool that we actually reduced licenses from, another tool that team wasn't using as much anymore, to invest into Fluent.
Ooh, do you mind if we like spend a minute on that too? So like you've got this existing relationship. Were you the person that managed it? Did you have to go to that salesperson and say, we're cutting back? And if so, what did that process look like?
Good question. I was one of the main people on it, but our sales operations teams manages a lot of the tools. So they're the ones that at renewal time said, hey, we're actually going to do X. So of course the salesperson reached out to me and I let them know, I'm like, hey, look, the tool is not getting the adoption that we want. And we want to go in a different direction and build this skill set here. And of course, as you know, any good salesperson, they want to make sure that, well, hey, did you know we're doing X, Y, and Z, or can we come back in and enable the team? But it's like, not at this point, because we are going in a different direction and we're seeing some good results and the team's really firing up about it. So it's like, there's a lot of momentum.
This is Buyer Truths, a research project about how tech buyers make decisions and what it means for how you sell. We surveyed 172 software buyers across mid-market and enterprise about real decisions they made in the past year, and all of the data is ungated and free.
My name is Jen Allen-Knuth from DemandJen with a J, and I'm here with my partner, Drew Giovannoli from Buried Wins. After you've learned how buyers make decisions in 2026, let us help you win yours. If you're losing deals to competitors you should beat, Buried Wins will tell you why. They do win-loss interviews with buyers you lost, prospects who never even considered you, and even reach out to the former sellers of your competitors. Learn more at buriedwins.com.
And if you're losing to buyer status quo, DemandJen will train your team to earn executive attention in outbound, lead status quo busting discovery conversations, and drive consensus with larger buying committees. Check out demandjenwithaj.com.
That's a really interesting point. I think we're sometimes so focused on how do you win net new that you don't realize like it's offense, defense on the existing side too. And to your point, when it's too late and you're already fired up about a new tool, trying to objection handle that is a bit of a losing battle. And especially if you're like, well, we can do that too. It's like, why didn't we know that before? That would be helpful. So
Yeah.
it's interesting from a customer perspective. So you did this pilot. It obviously went well. You qualitatively saw the conversations were improving. The written communication was improving. Can you talk to us about the pilot to the broader rollout? Like rough time period. Did you have to make a different case then to roll it out more broadly? I know you mentioned before there were some security reviews that you have to go through with new tools. What can you tell us about moving from pilot to broader adoption?
We actually did all of the security stuff prior to the pilot just to make sure if we did want to move forward, we were in the clear there. The pilot we did was probably 30 to 45 days. We wanted to go in and like validate some use cases very quickly and then either agree that this was right or agree that no, it's not the right time, and then roll it out to the broader team pretty quickly. Which we did. I mean, I think within 45 days, we bought the additional licenses for the team, got that team Fluent on the call. We did some enablement. We did some training. I did an individual training that I just recorded in Lessonly. So there's something they can go back and watch after. And then the beginning of this year, they had some new functionality come out. So they jumped on a call. We enabled the team again, just because we're such at the tip of the iceberg of what we're using and what it can actually do. But again, like you got to do it like slow over time, or people are like, there's too much, I'm overwhelmed.
Yeah. More value doesn't necessarily equate to like more adoption.
Correct.
Do you have a question, Joe?
Yeah. For that initial pilot, how did they structure the offer to give you confidence in like a pilot and then expansion? And did it expand to month to annual? I'm just curious about like the commercials on, even though you knew him, you had to make a bet and you took a smaller bet. What did that look like?
I don't remember the exact specifics of how it was. I think it was a paid pilot, and I think it was like $5,000 or something. I could be wrong. Nate could have given it to us for free, and I'm just totally, that's a totally Nate thing he would do, but only for good friends, not for anybody else. But then from there, then we worked in, it's an annual subscription license that we pay for. And then obviously if we just add users, they bill us for the additional users we have, which we have added more since the rollout. And the cool thing is my team is typically the one that always rolls out technology first. One, because I'm a nerd. I love like learning new things and technology and trying to share, almost to the point to my detriment where the team's like, "Guy, like I got my own job. Like stop sending out full tips to me." But like our APAC team and our EMEA team and our enterprise team are like, "Hey, can you tell us more about Fluent? Like we're seeing all this stuff. We'd like to get some more insight into it." So that's also cool because it's again with Fluent, we're only a small use case. Like there's probably 100 other sellers within our organization that could leverage it that aren't right now.
Did Fluent do anything that the other vendor didn't when it comes to post-sale enablement or engagement that improved adoption, or was it just the product was stickier or more exciting?
One, the product was more exciting, solved a more unique need that we're trying to fix in upskill. But they do have a good CS team where like they will get on, they will do enablement with team whenever we want, where the other one was a very small startup. It wasn't a big company. It was like 2 guys in a garage. So like they didn't really have the ability to, continuously train us. And to Jen's point, it was like, they didn't know we were leaving until we told them that we were leaving. Cause like they didn't have a cadence from an account management or CS standpoint.
If you, let's say like, the economy takes a turn and you are in the unfortunate position of saying, we have to cut X% from our spend. How would you as a buyer think about making the case to keep Fluent? Because I think what I'm picking up from you is like Fluent would probably be one of those tools that you would hold on to as long as you possibly could. I think sometimes sellers, we think in terms of like the product itself less than the business implications. And just knowing you dearly, I know you're really good at that. So how would you think about making that case internally if the ask was made to start cutting back on tools? How would you keep Fluent?
My first thing would be is one, we've got a lot of different tools, not just Fluent. And I take a look at the usage across all of them. I can guarantee you we have wasted spend for things like Sales Navigator and Sales Loft in tools that people aren't using that we could remove spend there so we could make enough, keep enough budget to keep Fluent there. If that wasn't the case, then I think I would probably use Fluent to help build my business case internally to the business on why it makes sense to keep it. And I think I could take some of the results that my team has had to use it. And that's the beauty about Fluent. When Nate was selling to us, he was using Fluent to sell Bullhorn. Like when in the sales process, we had a big focus on gross retention in last year as part of our comp plans. Like we had a big focus on that. Remember, my first call with Nate when we went through like a not a generic, but like a discovery, he sent me the business case from Fluent, and it was titled, it was like, what was it? It was gross retention, more like beautiful retention was like the headline. And it was just like the writing, like anybody that learns to write or learns about copywriting, like he just like each line makes you want to read the next one and the next one. It's like, man, if we can get all of our sellers doing this, like buyers will be like pretty impressed because it's a skill that not many sellers have.
So for this product, Nate was the influence from the beginning of your relationship as content online. Sounds like you do have a bunch of other tools you use, or at least you're interested in as a tech enthusiast. How did you come into those? Were those also driven by relationships in LinkedIn, or were any of them through like direct outbound to you? I'm curious how you're buying tools today and how you're getting introduced to tools?
Well, I get outbounded to a lot. But like SalesLoft was one. We used to be on outreach. SalesLoft reached out at the right time because we were coming at the end of a renewal with outreach. And this was years ago. And outreach at the time was only being used by our BDRs, and they were just doing it for email cadences. Well, at that point, SalesLoft had come in and we were like, yeah, we've got conversational intelligence. We've got the outbound. So they were able to say, hey, you can consolidate. I think we were using GoToMeeting at the time. It's like you can consolidate all that into one. And we used SalesLoft for the last several years. And there was a point where, I don't know if you know people.ai, which our friend Jacob used to work for. At one point, we were looking at them to move there for building org charts and like insight into accounts and all. And forecasting was a big thing. Well, we learned that SalesLoft was like, oh, we're doing that now too. So now the majority of our team uses new functionality. So I always look internally at the tools that we have to say, do they have something right now that we can solve versus going to buy a point solution where our main tool may already have?
Yeah, that seems to be a big theme here. And I don't think you're unique in that regard in any way, right? It's like sometimes we think about the functionality of our tool, but we're not reflecting on the status quo of what they have access to today or what other tools might have capabilities that they're not tapping into. Do you feel like in sales calls you've had, is that you driving that? Are the sellers ever taking kind of the driver's seat on that to say, listen, it looks like you use this, here's how we differentiate? Or do you feel like you go back and do that research without them?
Probably a little bit of both. Yeah, I mean, for that specific use case, the SalesLoft stuff, I did the research and I was like, what are we doing? Like, we're going to go buy a tool and this tool already does it and we're paying for it and we have access. We don't have to pay anymore. So because at that point we were reaching out just and talking to people AI, and there was a couple other we were looking at. And I was like, well, let's just look to make sure and the reason we didn't have access to it was at the time we were using Bullhorn, our own CRM. So we didn't integrate SalesLoft into Bullhorn. When we moved to Salesforce, we never set up the integration. So that functionality, like no one used it. So we got it connected. We got that. And it was like, we just saved everybody a bunch of money. So give me a raise.
That's how that works, right?
I wish.
I think one last thing from my side, and then Drew, obviously anything for you. I think selling sales stuff to sales leaders is such a fun meta type thing. Are there any like bits of advice you would give to people who are selling to sales leaders that you think really make a difference in winning your business?
I think for me, and Kyle also posted something about this as well. I think the art of the follow-up is like gone. Like you get blasted with a bunch of emails, but sellers who have like tried to leave me a voice message, have sent me a message on LinkedIn, have sent me an email, and have done it at least once or twice on each medium, like they have like 100% success rate meeting with me, because it's like, even if it's not an exact need right now, I'm like, this person is putting in the work, and I'm a seller. I have empathy for that. I used to do it all the time. So it's like, I'm going to help this guy hit their meeting goals for the month or something. But it's like, you got to like put in the effort. And to your point, selling to salespeople, I don't respond to the first one because I'm like, I want to see if they're actually going to chase me. Like, how bad do they want this? How bad do they want this meeting? So it's kind of a little test as well.
One of the prevalent themes for our conversation is just adoption is really important, and getting in the deal is part of it, but then you're like really looking into what you have already. At the same time, with SalesLoft, what was it? Outreach and Salesforce, you hadn't set up the connection yet. But with the new tool, you would have to go set up the connection, or the status quo, you'd have to go set up the connection too. So I'm wondering like what the lesson is there for the deals that you've already bought, from the software you already bought, the teams you're already engaging with. Obviously, check in more, engage and enable those teams. But anything else that you maybe teach your own sales teams in reflecting on all the software you've bought and then churned because you weren't using it?
Yeah. And Jen, we talked about this not too long ago. I have this theory that technology or any change is either successful or not, depending on the person that you have leading it. And that person I call is a peer, P-I-E-R, which is they have process knowledge, so they understand the process. They have influence, so people listen to them. They have experience in the job. So it's not someone who's read about the job. It's like someone who's been in the seat, have done it, and then they have respect of the team. So if they say, this is what we're going to do, people are like, yeah, let's do it. I think you take any of those off and you have a potential risk of people not adopting. Because what a lot of people do is like, they'll put someone in IT that may know the process, but they don't know how to answer sales related questions, or they don't know real world experience. So people are like, yeah, that's cool. And they just continue to do things the old way. So I even tell my team that when we sell our own tool, is like, you need to explain that to the team that you're selling to. Like, if you want to see success, yes, you need an admin, but like because we sell to salespeople, you need a sales leader that is championing this change. And if they don't believe and buy in, you're never going to get the adoption or the results that you spend a lot of money to try and get.
Or the expansion, right? You talked about your APAC and EMEA leaders coming to you. Yeah. If they came to an IT person that's just managing the administrative rollout, what is that person going to say? I love that peer idea so much. It's such an easy, clean way to look and have an honest look at your current relationship and say, do we have it or we not? That's like, to me, it's a very black and white answer. There's not much gray in there.
To me, it's also it's like a definer for people are like, oh, I've got a champion. And say you sell to salespeople and you say your champion is a CIO. It's like, you don't have a champion. Probably have a coach and someone that will help, maybe they sign the contract, but like your champion needs to be like who your persona is that you sell. That's your real champion.
Pardon the interruption, but if there's one cause I love even more than helping sellers win, it's helping rescue dogs like Chungus find a home. Many Paws Global Rescue is located in Palatine, Illinois, and takes in rescue dogs of all shapes, even as thick as this, and sizes. If you're looking for a new pup to sit under your desk and help you win deals, visit manypawsglobalrescue.org.